Patton Township Board of Supervisors meeting on Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, by 5:30 to order. We welcome all, especially new Patton Township residents, to the Patton Township community, a place for all. As you are able, please rise and join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next are announcements. Any other?
We do not have any.
I have one announcement. The announcement is the Pennsylvania Enhanced Move-Over Law. Pennsylvania amends the Title 75 to modify the Commonwealth Steer Clear Law and renames it the Move-Over Law. This legislation modifies the Commonwealth Steer Clear Law, which is outlined in Section 3327, by increasing the penalties established the minimum speed when passing a non-adjacent lane, extending the provisions to a disabled vehicle, and increasing the PennDOT's responsibility for public awareness. The summary offenses for violation of Section 3327, the first offense, increased from $250 to $500. The second offense increased from $500 to $1,000. And the third offense, we hope do not have a third offense, from $1,000 to $2,000. The minimum speed, if a person cannot pass an emergency response area or while passing a disabled vehicle in a non-adjacent lane because it's impossible, illegal, or unsafe, the person needs to pass those areas at a speed no more than 20 miles per hour, less than the posted speed limit. We also ask to please slow down and notice the road work signs for the safety of the road crew, construction workers, also the emergency management workers, fire, police, state troopers, and tow truck drivers on an accident site. On April 17, 2024, 3 construction workers on I-83 were killed after a truck that slammed into that construction vehicle while parked on the shoulder. They were killed on the Go Orange Day, a day to promote awareness on work zone safety. Our thoughts and prayers are with the workers' families. So as you travel the roads for work, graduations, weddings, conferences, training, family and friends get together, please be safe and remember to be safe for others. Thank you. Next on the agenda is additions to the posted agenda. Are there any additional items to be added on the posted agenda at this time?
There are not.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comments. Residents, taxpayers may address the board on issues of interest to the township. Comments related to a specific agenda should be deferred until that point in the agenda. If you are attending by Zoom, please use the raise hand feature of the Zoom application and wait for the chair to indicate it is your opportunity to speak. If you are attending in person, please approach the podium and wait for the chair to indicate it is your opportunity to speak. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Are there any public comments at this time? Seeing none, next on the agenda is presentation, public hearings. First is the proclamations celebrating Mount Nittany Health Week. Amy, can you give us an update on that?
Sure. Mount Nittany Health will be celebrating Mount Nittany Health Week, May 13th through the 17th. This proclamation was done last year also by the board, and they've asked us to do it again this year.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the proclamation celebrating Mount Nittany Health Week?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
It just occurred to me, I'm sorry it didn't occur to me last year, that this is, in a sense, a public business. And while I think it's fine for us to essentially acknowledge what they do for members in this township, I feel that we should perhaps reach out to other health institutes, or we might want to think at some point if it is appropriate to single out a for-profit organization with a special proclamation.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Just for thoughts.
Yep.
And I apologize, I didn't call to discuss
that's
it
fine.
earlier. But yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Abrams?
So this would be like organizations like CDIM?
I mean, I think that maybe we ought to have a discussion about that, because where do you draw the line?
Yeah, maybe we could develop a policy on proclamations.
Okay,
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
You've got some folks here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, from Mountain
Please.
Nittany. Well, bring it on.
Come on up. Thank you.
And thank you for your questions, discussions.
Mm-hmm.
If it so pleases, I'll address the board. Chair Rob, thank you for the opportunity, and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Kurt Kissinger, and I'm Chief Strategy Officer for Mount Nittany Health. And first of all, thank you very much for your consideration of tonight's proclamation recognizing the health team at Mount Nittany Medical Center and Mount Nittany Health. Mount Nittany Health Week is actually part of National Hospital Week. It's a national celebration recognizing across communities throughout the nation the important and critical work that the health teams at the more than 6,500 hospitals provide throughout their communities and their regions. Mount Nittany Health, as you know, has a 120-year legacy as a nonprofit, independent, community-owned hospital right here in our region, serving not only residents of Patton Township, but the greater six-county region, serving more than 400,000 residents. And so Mount Nittany Health Week is really our local hospital way of being part of the National Hospital Week celebration in recognizing the care teams across the nation. And so with that, and on behalf of the 2,400 employees of Mount Nittany Health and the 220 providers of the medical center, we really thank you for your support and for the cooperation that you've provided to us throughout the years, and for consideration of this proclamation for our team. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. It's on the board. Okay, we had discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Somebody else.
Oh, anybody else?
Hello, my name is Fedor Sinev. I live here in Patton Township in Park Forest Village. And yeah, regarding this Health Proclamation Week, I do think we should focus more of our attention on the crumbling health systems of America and their problems, you know. While Mount Nittany Health is a nonprofit organization, that does not mean people and their board owners and their board of directors, their executives, they still make money, they still receive compensation. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of you know, health infrastructure in America. We have a lot of public health issues that need resolving. There's a lot of investment that needs to be done in our health systems desperately. We need desperate investment, and we need a lot more oversight and perhaps more community and public input in our community hospitals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public at this time? As a discussion, I must say that we're saying thank you to those workers who worked through COVID those workers who, long hours, took the time to go back to their families knowing that this disease could spread to their families. And we're just saying, as a community, thank you to those workers. I hear you. I agree with you. We need more on our health issues. But today, we're saying thank you to those workers who take that time. So without further ado, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is a proclamation designating May as National Bike Month. Amy, would you like to?
Sure. The Recreation Advisory Committee recommends that the Board of Supervisors designate May 2024 as National Bike Month and Friday, May 17th as National Bike to Work Day.
Okay. Any public comment at this time? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The proclamation is adopted. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the proposed ordinance 2024-638, adding an alternate member to the Planning Commission. Amy, you want to
Sure.
give us an update?
So at last month's meeting, the board expressed its support for adding up to 3 alternate members to the Planning Commission, and before we can do that, we have to actually amend the Planning Commission ordinance to allow for these positions. So that's what this ordinance does. These positions would serve a term of 4 years, and alternate members can only vote in instances where a voting member is not at the meeting, but they can participate in all discussions at the Planning Commission level.
Okay, any discussion from the board before I open it up for a public hearing? Seeing none, the meeting is now open for a public hearing. Are there any comments or questions at this time from the public on the ordinance 2024-638? Giving you a minute. Seeing none. Another 1 minute. Seeing none, I'm closing the public session. Are there any comments or questions from the board at this time regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-638?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you. Motion passed. Next on the agenda is the proposed ordinance 2024-639, prohibiting parking on east side of Weaver Street. Amy, you want to give us an update?
Sure. So we've received numerous complaints about vehicles parking on both sides of Weaver Street in the Woody Crest neighborhood. The street is a partially private road, but in the public section, it's only 20 feet wide. When vehicles are parked on both sides, the road becomes too narrow for emergency vehicles to access the area, and we've also had difficulty with trash and recycling being collected because they're unable to access the area. So this ordinance would restrict parking on the east side of Weaver Street from Strauss Avenue to the end of the public section of the road, and this should actually greatly help provide room and improve the situation for the emergency vehicles and the trash and recycling trucks.
Okay, I open this meeting up for public hearing. Are there any questions or comments regarding ordinance 2024-639, prohibiting parking on the east side of Weaver Street? Seeing none, give you a few more seconds. Seeing none, I close the public session. Any questions from the board? Supervisor Abrams.
Did we get any comments from anybody living there about this?
Yeah, actually, we got a call from a resident. He's the one who notified us about the trash issue. And I spoke with him before this was on your last agenda, and he was very supportive of this. And also, one of our police officers was stopped by a resident out there who also asked for some relief because of the issue. So I think the residents that we've spoken to have been supportive.
And it's impractical to widen the road over,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the ordinance 2024-639?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes, the ordinance passed. And thank you to the community that gave us the information so we could address this. All right, next on the agenda is the financial statement presentation by our Finance Director, Larry Pager.
Yes. The township's appointed auditors, Brown Plus, have provided their final financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2023. Jim Barszewski from Brown Plus is available, and he'll provide an overview of the audit report. And he or I will respond to any questions that the board may have. So I introduce Jim. Jim, welcome.
Thank you. So again, I'm Jim Barszewski from Brown Plus. So Brown Plus was contracted with Patton Township to perform the annual financial statement audit, which is required for all second-class Pennsylvania townships. As part of the audit, we assess internal controls of the township, but we don't give an opinion on the internal controls, but we assess the internal controls to develop audit procedures. We noted no deficiencies or weaknesses in the internal controls, which is good. If we found anything, we would report those to you, but we did not find anything. I'm going to just share my screen here, if that's okay.
Yes, can you do that? Does he be okay?
Okay. Let's see. Okay, can everyone, or hold on one second.
We don't see it.
Yeah. Okay, how about now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see it, Jim.
Okay. So yeah, as part of the financial statements, we gave an unmodified clean opinion, which is the best opinion we can give for the township and what you as the Board of Supervisors and public want to hear. So it means we believe the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with GAAP. To touch on the financial statements themselves, if anyone's interested in the financial results, but you don't want to read the complete statements, I recommend reading the management discussion and analysis. Basically, this gives comparative information on the township's finances and explanations for variances compared to the budgeted amounts, and it compares to prior year results. And it also discusses the township's future plans to achieve a healthy fund balance. And then I'll just summarize quickly the financial statements. Overall, all the township ended with they ended with a governmental fund balance of $1.371 million. And it basically consists of the general fund, park and rec fund, open space fund, and debt service fund as the major funds, hydrant, streetlight, and liquid fuels as non-major funds. The primary source of revenue, as you would expect, was taxes and assessments, which is 70% of the total of $12.2 million in revenue. And the primary expense of the township is police and public works, which constitutes 63% of the 14 million total expenditures. Along with the governmental funds, there's 2 fiduciary funds, which are the police pension and the non-uniform pension funds. The police pension plan ended the year with an increase in net assets of 1.1 million, and the non-uniform plan ended with a slight loss due to distributions, which exceeded the contributions and investment gains. The rest is just the footnotes. I won't really go into those, but you could feel free to read those. So overall, also I'd note the township did not exceed 750,000 in federal awards, so no single audit was required this year. So again, to summarize, overall the township, it was a clean audit opinion, and there were no issues with internal controls. And I just want to thank Larry, Amy, and the whole team for being cooperative and helping us get the audit done. So if anyone had any questions.
Any question from the board? Jim, I would just like to thank you and your colleague who came and did our audit, and all appreciation goes to Larry, who continues to keep our records intact, and Amy and the staff. We truly, as this board, appreciate everything you do each and every year as we go through our audit. And Jim, thank you so much for, giving us a clean bill of health here. So, any other comment from board? Any questions? Larry, anything you want to say? No. All right. Jim, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Lou. Yeah, you too.
All right. Next on the agenda is public safety. And first is the noise waiver application for RE Farms Cafe.
So the owners of the Refarm Cafe on Fillmore Road have again requested a partial waiver from the noise requirements of Chapter 219 of the Township Code. Specifically, they're requesting exemption to the limits on amplified music for a series of events from April to December between the hours of 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The owners are in the process of notifying the adjacent property owners of the waiver request. Similar request was previously approved by the board in 2021, 2022, and 2023, and to date, we have not received any noise complaints. So we, as a staff, would recommend that you go ahead and approve the noise waiver. We do have Monica Gastiger on the Zoom, who's one of the owners of Refarm Cafe, if Monica wants to say anything.
Good afternoon,
thank you.
Monica.
Thank you. Thanks for considering this again. We really appreciate all of your help with this, and we do want to be good neighbors, which is why we keep asking for this.
We thank you. And each year, our chief has said that there's never been a problem, so we continue to thank you for that. So is any other board members have any questions? If not, motion?
Oh, yeah,
Can I get a second?
second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. There is no public works. Next on the agenda is engineering, planning, and zoning. The Windswept Farms preliminary subdivision plan. Amy?
So Pentair submitted a preliminary subdivision plan for Windswept Farms, which is along South Fillmore Road. The proposed plan would re-subdivide several previously approved lots with a combined acreage of 32.19 acres into a 7-lot residential development that will be serviced by a 750-foot public driveway. Sanitary, sewer, and water will be located on lot. A fire protection storage vault will be installed near the intersection with South Fillmore Road. Stormwater management will be addressed through above-ground on-site facilities. The basin will allow for groundwater recharge and detention to address municipal and state requirements for water quality and rate control. The discussion point for this plan is that the applicant is requesting a waiver from our subdivision and land development regulations that call for an internal path network within the lots. The Recreation Advisory Committee was asked by the Planning Commission to and there was also discussion about an access point for Brunel Road Park. So the Recreation Advisory Committee was asked by the Planning Commission to recommend an access point into Burnell Road Park because we wanted to ensure access for residents to that property. At the March RAC meeting, the committee made a recommendation to the Planning Commission specifying an access location, and additionally, the RAC provided an alignment within the park for a 10-foot wide natural grass path. At the April 1st Planning Commission meeting, there was some lengthy discussion about both the internal path network and then also the access to Burnell Road. The Planning Commission was okay with waiving the internal path network because of having the connection to Burnell Road, and also it's a 7-lot subdivision, so it's not that large. But they wanted to ensure that the needs of our Recreation Advisory Committee and Burnell Road Park were met, so they asked the plan to go back to the Recreation Advisory Committee for further review and discussion. The RAC met April 16th, and they accepted a presentation from Ron Borger from Pantera about the proposed location of the path. And we're showing a map that we just got, a plan that we just got today that shows that proposed location. And I believe that's in alignment with what the RAC, I'm looking at Susan, had recommended. Additionally, the RAC had recommended that a 15-foot right-of-way be granted to the township that provides for the development of a 10-foot wide natural grass surface path. And this path will extend from Leafy Edna Court cul-de-sac along the southerly boundary of Winswept Farm to enter Burnell Road Park, which is shown on this plan. The path will be constructed by the developer at the same time as construction of the road. The developer will purchase and install a directional sign to be located at the beginning of the path leading from the cul-de-sac, indicating that the path leads to Burnell Road Park. The size and style of the sign should be similar to the sign that directs people to the park from the Wintrust neighborhood. And the grass path located in the 15-foot right-of-way will be mowed and maintained by Patton Township. The path will connect, as I mentioned, to a 10-foot wide grass path in Burnell Road Park that connects with the other path networks. So I believe at this point, and Susan Wheeler's in the audience, if you have any questions from the RAC side of things, but I believe at this point, both the Planning Commission and the RAC are comfortable with where we're at with the path to Burnell Road and the plan itself, and also the waiver. We also have Ron here from Pantera if you have any questions about the plan.
Okay, Susan, do you have any questions on that, or Ron? Do you have any extra input?
I don't know. I think Amy covered pretty much everything. I don't have too much to say at this point.
Okay, any comments from the board at this point? Supervisor Whitman?
It occurred to me that if parking at Burnell Park Road is not adequate, people might use the public road in this development as a place to park and then walk through that. This is probably, a problem that doesn't exist, that's just waiting to happen. But I just pointed out, and I'm assuming if it was a problem to residents that they would notify us and we would put up some signage. But I'm just thinking of all the possibilities. I don't want anybody to be put out by that. So I think just something to keep our eyes open for, maybe in the next 20 years. That's what I'm thinking.
Supervisor Abrams?
Does anyone know when the last time a plan that had one of these paths came in that we didn't have a waiver request?
Ken?
We have had plans come through and they haven't had waiver requests, but I can say that we've had 2 of these plans that whenever residents came back in anywhere from 5 to 10 years later and asked to have the path extinguished, and the supervisors have allowed them to extinguish it.
The reason I ask that is perhaps there's a time to change the ordinance as being unnecessary or non-productive.
Yeah, because those internal pathways are only available to residents of the development. So it's really not a public facility, it's just available to the individuals within that development. So it would only be available for these 7 lots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the pathway to Burnell Road. I don't have a pointer. Do you have one, Ron?
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, can you show it on the plan for us so that the board can understand that?
This one here.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
That would be a public access path.
Yes.
So right here is a public access. Public access path, kind of paralleling the outer boundary line.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's the path. 10 feet wide, We decided to make it a 15-foot wide right-of-way, which will be part of the right-of-way for the actual street. So kind of, hopefully that'll help ease any concerns down the road with any right-of-way acquisitions and stuff like that. So just try to capture that right up front.
Yeah.
So it's public only to the
Bless
people
you.
who reside?
No, it's public for everybody.
Oh, okay.
That-
Yeah,
what-
yeah, that's public for everybody. The waiver request
Oh, I
is
see.
to waive the internal pathway within the development. which-
Gotcha.
And Ron can show you, it would probably be behind the homes and would just loop through and
Yeah.
connect the lots together.
Yeah, and that's what we were thinking. I mean, this is a pretty small rural subdivision, so I guess the path would wind around septic areas, but where would it really go?
Right.
They could make a loop out of it, the road and the path, but I don't know, yeah. They could always, if I lived there, I would walk to Burnout Park, but I'm just.
And I think, we were thinking, everyone will just come out to the street, walk up the street, and
Yeah.
then jump on the path.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
Okay. Supervisor Abrams, you all right?
I was just asking if, people, if these never work and people don't want them, why should we waste the time with them?
Yeah, we can look into those
We can look into
regulations.
True, and that was why staff also said that this path to the park had to go in whenever the roadway went in.
Yeah.
So that we have less issues if pathways or walkways are established prior to the new home construction. Because if we wait until 75% of the development's completed, at that point in time, it seems like 65% of the people that moved in didn't know there was going to be a path there. And they're reluctant to have it installed then.
Okay. All right, then, if there are no other questions, can I get a motion to approve the recommendation from RAC and Public Commission to approve the Windswept Farms preliminary plan?
So moved.
In a second? All right. Discussion?
Just to clarify, you're also approving the waiver of the internal path as well?
Yeah, okay, and the waiver. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.
Well, thank you, board, and really appreciate it. We'll see you again.
All righty. Next on the agenda is the temporary use permit and noise waiver request from Acres Project at 2400 Burnell Road.
So you saw this initially last month. Acres is submitting a request to hold a fundraising concert on their property on June 29th from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. When you looked at this last month, you had some concerns about the noise, so you asked them to submit the noise waiver request, and they have notified all of the adjacent neighbors of that noise request. So this is ready for your action if you're ready for its action.
Okay. I know they also talked to Chief and it was okay. So, can I get a motion to approve the temporary use? Second?
Second.
All right, discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the bike through travel in Patton Township parks.
Susan, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to take it? Okay, perfect. So all of our parks in Patton Township in the center region have ordinances in place that regulate use. And one of those regulations is that they're open from dawn until dusk, and there's signage at the park locations installed by CRPA, and the rules are posted. The rules pertaining to the use of a park at night states that any use of a park between sunset and sunrise is prohibited except by permit. It's been a long-standing interest of Center Bike, and we have Jeff Luck here as well representing Center Bike tonight, and other bicycling groups in the area that bicyclists be allowed to travel through parks at night by bicycle when used as a transportation route. Many discussions took place in this issue back in 2021. The municipal managers were involved, as well as the COG and the Center Region Planning Agency. And at the time, the municipal managers signed off on allowing bikes to travel through parks, but no action was ever taken by the COG to implement that. At the January 16th RAC meeting, Jeff Luck was here, and he made a request to the RAC that the through travel bicycling in Patton Township parks after dark be permitted. The RAC considered the request, asked for additional information to be gathered by staff, and discussed this issue. The RAC is making a recommendation to the board that through travel in Patton Township parks at night by bicyclists be permitted. I will note that if you concur with that recommendation and you approve it, we will have to change the ordinance, so we will put that on your agenda for next meeting for action.
Okay. Any questions from the board at this time? I know I had questions and I talked with the chief and he had no objections, so can I get a motion to?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. And
Yay.
Amy will do the ordinance next.
Yep, do that next.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's great, but you were too efficient and I didn't get a
Oh,
chance.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. We'll get out of here.
But go,
early. No,
if you
I
have
love this
something to
idea.
say.
No, I love this idea.
All right.
Yeah. I'm
All right, next
pro
one.
Pro paths. Pro bike.
Next on the agenda is administration. We have no items. The consent agenda. Is there any item or items on the consent agenda that the board would like to discuss or remove at this time? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So,
Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. The consent agenda is approved. Next on the agenda is the manager's report. Amy, you're up.
So I'd just like to bring up a couple of things, and one thing is not in my written report, but last week at PSATS, they were discussing the legal advertising requirements. And previous to that discussion, we found out that the Center Daily Times will only be printing 2 days a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, starting June 17th. This is very problematic for municipalities because we are required by law to advertise in a newspaper of general circulation before we do ordinances, before we adopt our budget, when we have our meetings, pretty much everything we do. So the concern that I have, and it's a concern shared by my colleagues in the other municipalities, is that this is greatly going to slow things down. Tonight is a good example. We took action on the through travel in the bikes. We're going to put that on the up for public hearing and adopt the ordinance next month or next meeting. However, state law says we have to advertise no less than 7, no more than 30 days before we act on an ordinance. So when we move to this new printing schedule, not only will that be difficult because of the way our meeting schedule will fall with their printing schedule, but also they've doubled or if not tripled the ad rates on Sundays. So it will cost us more money. So I sent an email to Senator Langerholtz, who was one of the speakers at the legislative forum at PSATS, and also spoke with a very wonderful senator named Senator Rosemary Brown, who's from the northeastern part of the state, who was on that legislative panel. I ran into her at a Starbucks, but about this, and discussed the need for some flexibility. They're getting a lot of pushback from the Newspaper Publishing Association, who does not want to give up the legal ads because that's obviously a source of revenue for them. So in my email to Senator Langerholtz, I suggested that if they would give us some relief in the form of allowing us to publish a legal notice after the ordinance is done, but requiring that we put the notice on our website, still following the same, regulations, that would work. I was talking with Tom Fontaine this afternoon from the borough, and he suggested that probably what we need to do is we need to go through the state associations and try to get the municipal codes changed to change the requirements, because the borough, State College is home rule, and their regulations state that they have to advertise after they adopt an ordinance. So I've asked Sophie to create on our website a little heading for public notices. We're going to start putting the legal ads there. But I just want you to know that this is going to be a significant issue, not just for Patton Township, but for all of us. It's a shame to see newspapers go away. I have a bachelor's degree in journalism. I was a newspaper reporter when I graduated from college, so I understand and love newspapers, but the time to make us do this archaic legal advertisement requirement in a newspaper has passed. And it's time to give us flexibility. And what they said at the legislative forum was, oh, well, some people don't have access to broadband in Pennsylvania. That's true. Some municipalities don't have a website. But if you make it so that the rest of us that have access to a website and that have social media and other ways to reach our residents and allow us to do it that way, I'd probably argue that most residents aren't reading the legal ads in the paper anyway. There's a very small percentage that do. So I'm hopeful that, perhaps if we continue, I saw Representative Take Hack Saturday at Earth Day and also mentioned it to him, and he said he needs to see, that there's a groundswell of support for the change. I also think we need to talk with the Municipal League and with PSATs about looking into code changes, because I understand and absolutely support the need to make sure that the public knows what we're doing before we're doing it. But I absolutely think there's another way to crack this nut, and no one's thinking about that. And I'm on my soapbox now, and I'll step off.
No, Supervisor Whitman.
Yeah, I'd just like to second your thoughts and point out that though there's some pushback saying that people in the state don't have access to broadband, I would argue, or I would ask the question, how many people subscribe to the CDT? It's not many. It's thousands. I mean, it used to be hundreds of, well, I don't know. I can't even pull a number out of there. And I would argue that they don't necessarily read the legal part. And certainly people don't have, in many rural areas, don't have access to a newspaper either. If they don't have access to broadband, they're also going to have difficulty driving where they have to get the newspaper. So something has to be done, and I think the best way is to go through the professional leagues, as you mentioned, yeah.
Supervisor Abrams, anything?
Unless, what about using the Gazette or CNET?
We're not allowed to put in a weekly newspaper. It has to be advertised in a newspaper of general circulation, and the state has said that does not include weekly newspapers. That's a change they could make.
I just want to, we need to talk, because the Allegheny, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette went on strike. Some of you may have been aware of that. There was case law. We had hundreds of municipalities that needed to do advertising and use that. There's cases now saying that they could use other papers. So we need to talk.
Yeah, that would be
So
good.
I think there's.
Betsy, can we get to thank you?
I don't disagree that there probably needs to be some consideration of change, especially in light of the changes to the Sunshine Act, which now requires posting of agendas and some other things that didn't exist when this went in. But there already are some avenues around this, and I think we can probably talk about the interim, how there also is some thoughts out there about general circulation and the use of that word, and that probably newspapers online count for general circulation from the perspective that there are many more folks who subscribe online to things like newspapers. I know we're picking on the Centre Daily Times, but there are people here who do get the Post-Gazette. They do get the Philadelphia Inquirer. And so there are some avenues around that. It doesn't change the cost, and it doesn't change the issues you're talking about. But I think for the short run, there are ways to get around it. And certainly some people, and there are, by the way, municipalities in the county that are using the Gazette. Because they're on the northern end of the county, and they used the Lock Haven Express, but their people complained because it wasn't delivered, so they used the Gazette. The Gazette is only a problem because they do have an online presence, but they don't have regular delivery, which is the concept of general circulation, right? So you pick them up at places as opposed to getting them but now, of course, the CDT will. And incidentally, this issue came up when the CDT went to their new process, which if those of you who do get the print version know that it isn't delivered to your door. It comes through the mail. So it itself is not under the concept of general circulation from a print perspective.
Yeah, and we were not, I will say from the manager standpoint, because this has been a hot topic amongst the municipal managers in the region, we were not aware that we had other options beyond what we had been doing, because it's not been very well communicated to us that that the Gazette might be in play and some other things. So I think there's some bait and switch going on that we need to look into and discuss.
Well, and the Allegheny County decision is relatively recent. I think that strike was just ended. I can't remember.
It just ended last week.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
I'm a subscriber to the Post.
Yeah, and I'll pull that because I know several of my partners and associates in Our Pittsburgh office literally had municipalities who said, where are we supposed to publish our notices? How are we supposed to do it? So, yeah, I think there was some kind of, I can get that information. Now, we're not in that same scenario.
Right.
But we certainly could be, and we could certainly probably use the thoughts in that case to make some good legal arguments as to why some alternatives for posting would be beneficial. That still doesn't mean that you shouldn't, through the league and through PSATs and others, and I think CCAP is the same situation, Commissioners Association, look at changing the law, because again, most of you, not all of you, but most of you are publishing your agendas on your website, making them available and putting them out there. We do still have municipalities that don't do that. And I'll be quiet.
No, and you just heard from Betsy Dupree, our solicitor. Thank you.
So just two other things to touch on from my manager's report. I had a great meeting with Jenna Wargo and Missy from the Center County Housing and Land Trust yesterday to talk about the workforce housing ordinance and drafting those regulations. We put together a brief timeline and what we'd like to do, because there's a significant education piece to starting the workforce housing regulations. We'd like to have a joint meeting with the board and the Planning Commission in July and spend some time, and we'll make sure that that's some time that CNET can cover as well, so we can have that available for our residents, and start having a discussion and just start talking about where we want to go and where we're hoping to be and what lessons we can learn from our friends in Ferguson and College and the borough that have these regulations as well. So I'm excited because I think that's really going to help move us forward and continue with our, living our motto, being a place for all. And then
Can I make a recommendation that we make an extra effort to reach out to residents of the township, either through next door neighbor or the usual pushes on the website or other social media? Because I think one of the challenges when we've done this before has been people sort of taken by surprise with big changes.
Right.
That's sort of affordable housing or workforce housing.
And we've also talked about the need to do some education, so folks understand this is for teachers and nurses and police officers and people that work for your municipality.
Yeah.
So that it's that missing middle, the 60 to 110% AMI that is missing in our community.
Yeah, and there actually has been some work done on ways to introduce this information to a community, information which will greatly change their way of living, and that if people are brought into the discussion process, so it's not what we want to do but for you, but what you want us to do for you, and it's a matter of rephrasing and repositioning.
Yep.
So it works quite well.
And then lastly, the school district, we met with them at a staff level to talk about the Park Forest Middle School and the traffic impact of that. Penn State goes out of session at the end of Friday, so they're busy getting traffic counts because they have to count when Penn State is in session. And then we'll be looking at that traffic impact study once all the counts are done and they've put everything together. So we're hopeful that being proactive on the traffic side of things, typically the traffic study happens after a plan is submitted, but hopefully being proactive will help, because I know there's been some concern amongst the public about the school and losing access for pedestrians and other things. So that's all going to be discussed as part of the traffic study.
Great.
So that's a coming attraction. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
You know where I'm going. I need to know about the sinkholes.
Yes, so Toft Trees West is where Mount Nittany is developing their new medical facility. It's also a larger development. There's been 3 sinkholes, Ken?
Yes, they've had issues 3 times.
Yeah. And so the last time, the sinkhole is quite large, and the County Conservation District was out, and Ken and I were out, and Michelle was out. So we communicated back to the engineer, Pantera, and also to the developer, Robert Poole, that they need to do a geotechnical report and figure out what's going on. Tony Frechtel from Pantera indicated he thinks it's an issue with converting the basin from a sedimentation basin to a drainage basin. But we're still waiting to get some more information on what that, he said the geotechnical was done, but we're waiting to get the report and maybe discuss what those next steps are to stabilize that area. Because we're afraid it's where it's located now, it would impact parking if it opened up or continued to grow. So we want to make sure that we take care of the issue and head it off before it becomes more of an issue.
Okay, can I get an update, if you don't mind? I'd just like to keep on top of that.
Yeah.
As well. Any other questions for Amy at this time? Seeing none, next on the agenda is the committee reports. I know for myself, public safety, our public safety meeting was canceled. We're looking to meet with the commissioners next month at the EMS station, so we should have a good report and tour. Any other report? Okay. Seeing none, next on the agenda is other business. And if there's no other business,
Move to adjourn?
can I get a motion to adjourn? Second?
I don't, technically, do we need a second?
I mean,
Wait a minute.
no one's
Well,
gonna hold you to keeping, staying in the meeting.
Thank you.
just
All
a
in favor, say
technicality.
aye.
Yeah.
Thank you all. This meeting is now adjourned.
Thanks.